Hey, what's up guys, Rogue9 here, and this evening we're trying out something new. We're calling it Casual Convo. I'm here with Prodigio Pete and Get Flanked. They're both away starting their own streams right now, and what we're going to be doing is, we know that Ella's getting nerfed, we know that she's getting nerfed soon, so our objective is find out, well, not find out, but find out your opinions, have a chat with you, and also discuss our own opinions about this nerf, what we think it could be. And let's see how that works while trying to play at the same time. Should be good fun. Let's see if the other guys are ready. So I'm back. How are you guys? Yeah, this is the awkward moment when they're still having their chats. Oh yes, I can actually see them. Excellent, yeah, I mean, for anyone who's joining a little bit late, I've just given a bit of an intro, so you should be able to rewind and re-listen to that, and we'll get started any second. Oh, there they are.
Yep.
I'm here.
So, yeah, cool. Some people are going to ask how we know that Ella's getting nerfed. It was put out by community manager It's Epi, so he said that Ella's going to get nerfed. We don't know what the nerf is yet, but that's what we're here to talk about. And we also want to get you guys in the chat on the free streams, so my stream, Rogues, and Get Flanked, with your feedback. And later on in this stream, we're going to take some of your feedback and field some of your questions as well. But that's how we know she's getting nerfed. Craig, It's Epi, put out a tweet earlier saying that she is getting done in the mid-season reinforcements.
I think that it kind of came to a fever pitch with the qualifying games, the Pro League qualifiers. Everybody kind of was throwing a fit, talking about how OP she was. So that's why he was responding at that point, I believe.
Yeah, it was to Fabian, who's the team captain of Penta. So he was asking on Twitter, unhappy about it, and then that's when it was confirmed. We don't know exactly what the nerf is, but we're going to talk about it. So, should we launch into a game of casual, since this is casual convos?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Wreck
Okay.
some noobs.
So I guess
The only thing is, I got to let you guys know, I'm Ella is mine. I'm going to take full advantage of her.
I think we should rotate, no?
Well, I've got Chanka.
Oh, that's a good idea. Just a note on the format. I think we're going to be playing about 2 games where we're going to be discussing sort of our own thoughts, and then after that, any questions or suggestions or ideas for what the nerf could be or what you would want it to be, feel free to put those in the chat, and we'll get to discussing those.
So I guess the first thing we really need to talk about here is, do you think Ella needs a nerf? And I know this is controversial, but let's just lay it all on the line, guys. Do you think Ella needs the nerf?
Yes. I think there's no doubt about it. I mean, I've been pretty vocal on my channel about Ella and, how I feel like she does definitely need a nerf. There's a lot of people who disagree because a lot of people have fun playing her, and I get that. But when you look at the balance of her, that's my biggest thing. She's easy mode. There's no downside to picking her. Whether it be her gadget, which is extremely powerful, her gun, which is arguably the best in the game, the capacity that she has with that 50-round mag, the fire rate that it has, the fact that she has the sight on her pistol even. She's at 3-speed. Just every aspect of her is super, super powerful. And it's kind of head-scratching that she actually got into the game in this form, to be completely honest with you.
Rogue?
Yeah, I mean, I fully agree. I think when she came out, she was just massively overpowered, and even though she's already gone through 1 round of nerfing, I think there is more warranted. And something that sort of occurred to me while I was having a bit of a think today, we already have, I mean, people always talk about the 50-round magazine as being sort of the core of the problem, but we already have an SMG that has 50 rounds. The P90 has been in the game from the very beginning, and there was never this issue. There was never this huge problem of having basically a miniature machine gun that is just absolutely able to decimate any enemy. That wasn't the case. So what I did was I compared the two a little bit. I mean, the Scorpion, it is one of the weaker SMGs when you look at damage per shot. The maximum damage at close range is only 28 points. The minimum damage at distance is 18 points. And there are only, I think it's 3 other SMGs that are weaker. The MPX, the P90, and the Vector. But if you compare the P90 and the Scorpion specifically, since they have the two have the same magazine, the P90 is still weaker than that, quite a lot weaker. It only does 22 points of maximum damage and 18 points of minimum damage again, and is even slightly slower at 970 rounds per minute versus the 1080 that the Scorpion gets. Add to that sort of the fast reload, and you end up with a weapon that seems unnecessarily unbalanced. I mean, if the developers really wanted that 50-round mag as something that's unique and something that makes the gun stand out, it could have still been a balanced weapon. We've already seen that, and as it stands, the Scorpion is basically, it has exactly the same damage per second as the AUG A2. It is head and shoulders above any SMG in the game, and it actually is comparable to a lot of the relatively high or mid to high powered rifles, and I think that is quite a lot of her problem. Her gun is the main problem. The fact that she's 3-speed to add onto that is possibly something that takes it even further, and then the Geschmott mines, which have sort of that dual capability of being used as a grenade, an impact grenade, or even a grenade that will explode on proximity, and not only sort of get the enemy player into a drunk state where he can't see properly, but also slow the enemy down significantly, and that I think is one of the core strengths of that device. Is crazy, and you can just deploy it as well as a defensive mine and have someone run into it, and all of those things combined are just, yeah, they add up to a very, very powerful character, a character that is more powerful than most of the others.
So we've got 2 in favour of a nerf. Shall I be controversial and play devil's advocate here and say I'm not in favour?
I mean, you could say it. We'd all know you're lying. Go ahead.
No, I am actually kind of in favour. It's one of those things, though. I know it will hurt a lot of people that this news that Ella's getting another nerf, because let's remember, she has already had a nerf where she lost one of her mines and she had that recoil increase. But I do think overall she does need the nerf, just because there's so much going for her, and there's just no reason really to pick so many other operators other than her. I know there's different utility factors with certain other operators, but she does stand kind of head and shoulders above them. But one of the things I wanted to say is there is a part of me that is disappointed, because obviously I love playing as Ella, just as I loved using Jaeger with the 8. Sorry, I'm trying to concentrate and play. Just as I liked using...
Are you guys in a game?
What?
Yeah.
Oh dear. You're
No.
not even with us. Oh, no.
No, you're good.
Let's hop.
Rip.
I died anyway. But no, the thing was, like, when Jaeger lost the ACOG, I was kind of disappointed. But as we were discussing yesterday, it's one of those things where you have to see a little bit past what your own preferences are and what is for the good of the community. So, yeah, I'll go along with the fact she definitely does need a nerf, actually.
That's actually...
Well, if you were going to make, I'm sorry, if you were going to make an argument for why she doesn't need a nerf, is there anything out there that you can grab onto to say?
Fun factor.
Okay, all right,
That's
important.
Yeah.
I mean, the game is supposed to be fun to play, but she's not fun to play against. That would be my argument. And what's fun to me is playing a balanced game that's highly competitive.
Yeah, I do think the fun factor... I guess you could argue, if you were against a nerf, you could say, well, it's actually all fair in love and war, because, yeah, I can use Ella and I can do well with Ella. This is not me saying it, just the counter-argument. But then you could say, but so can you use Ella the next round when you're defending and I'm attacking. So that would really be the counter-argument, in my opinion.
That is a really good point, because, I mean, she's there to use for everyone. So, yes, no, that is a very good point. On the other hand, I mean... question still is, do you want that must-have frag? And she really is, at the end of the day, a fragger, which is, if at least she was a must-pick because of her gadget, because it had something that
Right,
had
I've been
something
joining for
really
10 minutes,
unique
man. Jump in the room.
in terms of what it's able to do, then that might be useful. But yeah, I think it's a shame that she's a must-have fragger instead.
So we're in agreement then, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
you're gonna be. I mean, there are people out there who don't want her to have a nerf, but I wonder how honest they're being with themselves. That if they're trying to say that she's not out of balance.
I think we can all empathise with those people, though. It's not as though we don't understand where they're coming from. We've seen controversial changes to operators before. Blackbeard, for example, was quite a controversial change. His shield. We can understand that certain operators are fun to use, and it's disappointing when they do get nerfed. But then, as well, you have to look at the bigger picture and kind of a bit past what your own preference is for an operator as well.
Yeah, and that's tough to do for some people, especially. I mean, if I look at my stats, I would be willing to bet that my stats are probably the highest with Ella, as far as my KD, or at least really close to it. I'm sure that she's one of my better operators, but you have to. I mean, you have to look at it like there is something when she's picked every single round, and there's something when every player in Pro League that has like the highest KD is the Ella main. Like, you have to kind of recognize, okay, something might not be right here.
Yeah, I think so. I'm just kind of looking at my chat here to see what people are saying, and I think on the whole they're kind of in agreement. I think that, you know, Ella should get a nerf, but some people do seem a bit disappointed about it. Again, guys, we don't know what the details are with regards to the nerf. We're going to find out soon, though. Mid-season reinforcements are just around the corner. We perhaps touch on that a little bit. And the patch notes are coming for that this week, so we're going to find out the details of the nerf there. But there's a lot of different things that it could be, and we're going to talk about that as well. And again, we want your feedback. We want you to leave in the comments what you think it could be, and we're going to touch on your comments a little bit later. So I guess now we've got to the point where we're mostly in agreement about the fact that she does need a nerf. How do you think that nerf should play out? And I think I know what you're going to say, Flanked, because we've talked about it a whole lot. What about you, Rogue? How do you think that Ella could be nerfed?
Yeah, do you want to get us into a game in the meantime?
Yeah, let's get everyone invited here. So
Go ahead and invite me. I'm in a casual right now, but I'll just back out.
Yeah,
I don't know. He's done that a few times. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Perhaps because you're in the US.
Maybe.
Wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, it shouldn't really, should it? We
So
all
anyway,
know that.
Let me
go
back
on.
up. So, your question was, how would I? How would I?
How should it
Should
manifest
it be?
itself?
So this is what I think is viable, rather than what I think it will be. I suppose there is a distinction there. Then again, there is also an overlap. I mean, the key thing that you keep seeing again and again is less ammo. That what makes her overpowered is the gun, and the 50 rounds just make it too much. I've seen suggestions of giving her 30 rounds. I've seen suggestions of giving her as little as 20 rounds, since she has that massive fire rate and high damage per second. So that is definitely a viable option, something that might happen, something that I could definitely see happening, and something that I think I would be accepting of as well. Something we saw in the first round of the nerf was also more recoil, and I think that giving it just a little bit more recoil on top of that, again, is viable and is a potential solution. Because, I mean, when the gun came out, it was just a laser beam with high rate of fire. It was just a joke. And even though they've already added a bit of recoil, I think a tad more could balance out the gun. Final and simple solution, in terms of the gun at least, could also be then to bring the damage down to be more in line with something of the P90, because the P90 has a high fire rate, it has a large magazine, and it works. So getting more in line with that, maybe keeping it a little different to keep it interesting, but definitely yes. And maybe I'll just finish all of my ideas before I just then let one of you chat and I can concentrate on playing. So that was mostly around the gun. But, I mean, I think it was Gregor who coined the term, or at least he was the one who mentioned it, certainly to me, so I'm going to credit him for that from my perspective. But he called her playstyle sort of a point lurker. Because of her gadget, because she can use it as a mine that will detonate on proximity of the enemy, she can hide in certain areas and defend certain avenues towards the objective, or she can even stay in and around the objective and block one of the approaches from a close range. And I think to bring her more in line with that role, I would be quite happy to see her taken down to a 2-speed, 2-armor operator, rather than making her this 3-speed, 1-armor operator who is just so crazy good at getting those kills. I think having her a bit slower and a bit more armored would play better in terms of her gadget, and it would work quite well to make her less of a danger to fight against.
I never even thought about the whole 2-armor thing. That's a good point.
That's an option, isn't it? This change the stat lines round. I just wanted to come back on one quick thing. Do you really think changing the recoil is advisable? Because obviously she's had that recoil increase already, and then you've got to take into account how she plays on console. So I know some people say on PC that they can still really control the recoil, but do we get to a point where she becomes so difficult on console that it's probably not a good idea? Do we look at other factors?
I think that's a good point. And I think that you especially can't do both, in my opinion. I think both might be a bit much, as far as a recoil nerf as well as a mag sized nerf. I think it's kind of one or the other, in my opinion. But it is. It's tough to balance a gun both for console and on PC, and that's something they have to definitely be concerned with. I see them. The number one complaint I see is the 35 round or the 50 round mag. So that's where I would see them going first.
And to be quite fair, I mean, I've tried to do some research on the actual real-life Scorpion Evo. I couldn't find any evidence of at least a magazine with 50 rounds that is readily available. You might get it, of course. There's always that option, but I've never seen one actually advertised. I've seen sort of 20 and 30, and I don't even know what, but 50 specifically is one that isn't even that readily available.
I mean, I just died in Shanka. I mean, I guess you could buy a magazine for anything. I've never gotten that argument. Like, the people who've said the reason she has a 50 round mag is because that's how the Scorpion is. Like you said, you've done research on it, and I have too. I mean, you can go out and buy a 50 round mag for any gun you want. I'm sure there's going to be something out there. So I've never really gotten that whole realism argument.
And it's certainly unnecessary. I mean, it's not as if since there are smaller mags available, that you couldn't go with that if you wanted to. I don't see the necessity for this gun to have the 50 rounds, and I know that's something that the community managers have spoken about on Twitter, specifically that this is what makes the gun unique, this is what we want to keep.
Oh yeah, it's 100% a design decision to give her that high magazine when so few other weapons in the game have it. What, the PDW for Jackal has a high magazine count, and the P90. Are there any others that have that kind of
the machine guns? But of course, the machine guns are completely other devices. And they're balanced out by being just rubbish overall. It's just really bad.
Do you know what I'm going to say? This is so difficult to talk and think about a topic and try and play the game.
It's actually a realism that this game requires like your full concentration. I think I'm gonna anchor with Jaeger is where I'm at right now.
The Jaeger anchor.
So
that or just
winter's coming down already.
Mindlessly.
I just want to say a few people in chat agree, a few people disagree. So some people are saying actually she definitely does need the recoil to increase. So perhaps that is a thing, the recoil. But yep.
Just to counter that a little bit, like you look at Mira. Now, obviously, Mira is a three armor. Like there's a bunch of differences, but you look at her very high fire rate gun, the Vector. That thing is a laser. but it does. I think it does a little bit less damage, and obviously the magazine size is the big nerf there because of that high rate of fire. If you aren't landing headshots, you're going to run out of bullets really fast, and you're going to be in a really tough situation. So, like I think if you limit the magazine size, you don't need to do much else, in my opinion.
Out the window as well. And I mean, the Vector, speaking of that, it also is the weakest gun, or at least the weakest SMG in the game. So that's the way that's balanced as well.
Well, the Vector obviously does still have a really good fire rate going for it. So, I mean, you touched on the other option would be to change the stats over to a 2-2, and I think that would be quite a big nerf, because obviously speed is the key factor for many people in this game. So
yeah, and that would change her completely. I mean, that would make her. I mean, would you still roam with her? I mean, how would you play her? You know, that's like I said, that's a really good point. Not something I thought of.
That would change her up, wouldn't it? Rogue, you suggested that. So is that something you want to see?
I would be perfectly happy seeing that. I think it would take her away from that pure fragger role and put her more into a role where her goal is to hold a certain part of the map. It doesn't need to be the objective itself. It doesn't need to be around the objective itself. It could be above the objective. It could be a certain entry path into the building itself. Her role would then be more like, get to where you want to hold before the action starts and set up there. Put your Geschmott mines down so that when you get pushed, there is that defense and you can jump out and murder whoever's trying to push you. And I think having her sort of in that 2-2 range would fit perfectly well.
All right. So I don't disagree with that, to be honest with you. I can see the idea behind that, but I do think some attention perhaps needs to be put on the weapon. Whether that is recoil, I'm not too in favour of that. Maybe the magazine capacity, which again I don't think they're keen on changing. Could be damage drop off, something like that, which is already not the best. The Vector, the Scorpion already is known for its high fire rates. You can't really tinker too much with that.
Yeah, the damage drop-off is actually already one of the worst.
Yeah,
that's not what makes the gun strong.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think the argument you make regarding console players is a very good one. And yes, they would have to be very careful with nerfing her in terms of recoil.
I think they have to do something with that magazine. I know that we're already past the point where we talked about why or do we think she needs a nerf, but I just feel like what I feel like's been really annoying with her is how aggressive people can be with her. Like peeking, for example. You've got that 50-round mag, a high fire rate, and your 3-speed. So you know somebody's around a corner, whereas with a normal operator, you might have to play it a little slower and be a little bit careful. With Ella, you just start pre-firing, move out, and just adjust your aim with holding the button down. Like that to me is what is the worst part. So, and I think you're only going to fix that with the magazine, by lowering the magazine count. That's the only way you can really fix that. Well, I guess maybe the 2-speed, like it could be an option there that could fix it as well, but I don't see any way around not limiting the magazine size.
Well, the other option is the Gadget. Do something with the Gadget, and that's where your idea really comes in, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I'll just mention it briefly again. Obviously, the people on my stream are familiar, and I'm sure they've heard me 1,000 times. I'm starting to get known for beating up on Ella constantly, but it has been something I've been very vocal. I've felt like her Gadget, the Grismont Mine, has really changed the game in a negative way and made it much less enjoyable to be an attacker, and I don't like how little skill that Gadget requires in order to be really effective. If you compare her Gadget to a Smoke Beauty, think about how much skill goes into a Smoke Beauty in order to use that effectively. I mean, you have to play conservatively. You have to know where the enemies are coming from. You have to time it perfectly. Whereas with Ella, you just throw it over a door and you go spawn peek and you go run around the map like crazy, and that's it. So I've said that I would like to see them to where they're remotely detonated, similar to a Smoke Beauty, and I would love to see how that would play out.
I think it would just change the whole playstyle, because you need then to keep her alive to utilize that utility, right?
Right.
At the moment, you can use Ella in quite a carefree, roaming fashion, but if you have to keep her alive, then it will change up your playstyle.
For sure, and that might be indirectly a nerf to that 50-round mag in some ways. I've seen some comments, and I almost have to agree with this. Even if Ella didn't have a gadget, though, with that 50-round mag, the rate of fire, and that gun, I think she would still be a very high pick right now. Honestly, I have to admit that. I hate to, because I appreciate the utility, but I honestly think even if she didn't have a gadget at this point, she would still be picked really high.
What do you think, Rogue, with regards to, do you think the gadget should be something they can look at?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, another sort of idea that I've seen, and it's a very simple one, is just less mines, but we've already seen that again, and I don't think that, personally, this is my personal idea, I don't think that's necessarily, again, all that helpful, but for sure, changing the way it worked, for instance, making it just actively detonated rather than remote detonated, that I think is a great idea, and again would change exactly how she's played. Another
did you see that comment today, Rube, on Twitter? I'm sorry, I didn't.
Exactly, that's exactly what I was just going to get to.
Okay, go ahead, because I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, so one theory that was put to us on Twitter as we were preparing for this was that someone's seen a rumor that she's going to be changed, or the mines are going to be changed, in terms of they have a delay, a 1-second delay before going off, and the person mentioned that that would give attackers a chance sort of to get out of the way of them. Now, I'm not quite sure what exactly that means. That's all I saw, was they're going to be sort of delayed by 1 second. Now, I think the way he mentioned it, it gives attackers a chance to move away. That kind of sounds as if it takes a second to go off even once. Once a person triggers it, so you run into it, maybe there's a beeping sound, and then you quickly get away from it before it goes off. I'm not quite sure if that is how it works, and I'm not sure I would like it that way. But maybe a more subtle nerf could be that they take a full second, or maybe even a bit longer, before they go active, which would change them from grenades/traps into more dedicated traps. So you can't anymore use them as a grenade. If you throw them as a grenade, they simply won't go off immediately until they've landed and activated, which would take away, again, sort of that active attacker role that she has, or, well, obviously she's a defender, but the active role that she has in terms of attacking and killing... Sorry, just murdering someone. Attacking and killing the attackers as they come in, so turning her mines into actual mines rather than grenades. I think that is a great idea, and that's something that we might well see.
I guess the goal there would be to limit her, like you said, as that attacking kind of point person. And in the situations where you actually throw her mine at an enemy, let it go off, and then rush them, that would be a little bit less effective. So I could see that, definitely. That's not what annoys me the most about her gadget. I actually think that scenario right there requires more skill than than just throwing it above a door in the objective. But that would certainly be a nerf.
Well, we'll have to see. Potato Tacos here says, Kickstar said Ella would be useful without gadgets, so we should change her gun and speed. Which I guess is what you were saying, Flanked. You know, she's going to be, even without that gadget, she'd still be a really high pick, which we see with Ash. Anyway, a lot of people don't even bother using that underbarrel launcher.
Yeah, that's a very good...
Really think,
Go ahead.
Pete, I'm sorry. Do you really think, Pete, that they won't affect that magazine? Because I know you said that they're not... You feel like they're not keen to limit that magazine size. I personally, I think if I'm predicting right now what they're going to do, I think they're going to limit the magazine down to 35 rounds. And Maybe I could see them giving the mine some type of 1 second delay or something like that. That would be my prediction.
Honestly, they should. They really should tinker with that magazine size if their intention is to nerf Ella. But I just have this feeling that they won't do it because it was a design decision on their part. But I also want to say one thing. These new operators do tend to get nerfed. You know, it's not a new thing. They do tend to come out a little bit on the powerful side before getting nerfed a bit later on, which, if you were cynically minded, you might say is to encourage people to have the season pass. But yeah, this is not a new thing. We've seen it so often. I think Valkyrie had, 4 cameras before it was reduced to 3. You had Frost with that Super 90 sniper. All sorts of operators have since been nerfed after coming out, and only a few really. He's probably the main one. But I can only think of 1 or 2 that have been buffed, and I think Buck was one of them with his underbarrel shotgun.
Yeah, the functionality of that, I think, was the main issue, since it struggled as a breaching tool in the beginning.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. One of the most head-scratching things about this is what you said there, Pete. The fact that they did nerf her, and it wasn't even close to being a big enough nerf, obviously, to what she needed. So I'm kind of wondering what they were thinking on that nerf. Did they? I don't get too cynical as far as I don't think that they're just trying to sell copies of the game or season pass or whatever. But I do kind of wonder what they were thinking, how they thought that she was gonna be balanced.
Well, I mean, there's the 2 sides, right? Well, there's the 3 sides, technically, but I'm going to say there's the 2 sides. There's going too far, which we have seen, and then there's not going far enough. Ideally, you would want the exact middle, where on the first nerf or buff, whichever it is, they just get it right immediately, but that's challenging, I'm going to say.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've seen it before happen exactly like that. I don't think there's any thing cynical or purposeful behind it. Sometimes they play around, and they obviously have crazy insights that we don't. So they're trying to get it right, and sometimes they go a bit too far, and sometimes they don't quite go far enough. And in this case, I think, obviously, they didn't go quite far enough.
And yeah, you got to give them credit. I mean, you never know how it's play out. I mean, you don't. But man, when you look at that gun, I just have a hard time thinking that they didn't look at that and be like, that seems extremely strong to me.
Yeah, it's a very good point, especially since, like I mentioned right in the beginning, the parallels to the P90 are just, I mean, there are a lot of parallels, but then it's so much better, and it didn't need to be.
If I get cynical, then this is the direction that I'll go. Do you think it's possible that Ella was designed to possibly compress the skill gap a little bit, to make, they wanted to put an operator in the game that was easier to play for a new player? Because honestly, I mean, if you're a new player in this game, a 3-speed with a really large magazine and a gun that doesn't have recoil and a gadget that doesn't require much thought to go into it, it sounds like a pretty new player friendly operator. I'm not saying there's no skill involved with Ella. I think that, the more skilled player in using Ella, the better they're going to be. But do you think that's possible, that maybe they were trying to make a really easy to use operator for new players?
It's an interesting idea, but then I think the flip side there is that really skilled players get to use her as well. And then what if you're a new player and you come in and you just get absolutely murdered by someone who's been playing for 2 years who picks Ella?
Right. Yeah, that's very true.
I don't think they've designed an operator to be easy or to appeal to newer people or as you put it, a lower skill gap. I just think that's probably the way she turned out. Although, I think most people looked at Ella and thought from the start that she was going to be pretty damn powerful. It was pretty obvious with the fire rate and everything going on.
I mean, a theory, I think I've heard this. I'm pretty sure this isn't my own idea, so I'm just going to be cautious and say I've heard this. A theory that I've heard as well is because we lost that season to Operation Health, and we lost the Polish map and the Polish operators got split up, I've heard the idea that making them powerful, making them unique, and the same for Zofia, giving her all these extra little abilities like the Withstand, is to somehow compensate for the loss of that season. Is that something that you think makes sense?
Well, give the player base a really good operator to compensate for the fact that they went perhaps a little bit more than 6 months without one.
Yeah, and that the whole Polish season with the map got, well, chopped up and partially lost. Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah, maybe there's some element of that involved. I don't know. Again, that would. By the way, are your screens really flickering? I've got a really weird texture bug.
Mine is fine.
Yeah, mine's okay.
Okay, cool.
If you want to restart or anything, just let me know.
Yeah, I think I'll be fine. I had to do this thing because I was getting this texture flickering bug just all the time, and I had to do this NVIDIA thing to get rid of it, but that's really insane at the minute. Yeah.
I've on your point there, as far as them skipping out on the Polish season, I think there's some truth to that, because I think that's where the Withstand and the Dead Man's Hand comes in. I kind of feel like that was the extra little bonus maybe that they gave them, because, hey, I'm sorry you guys aren't getting a map, but here's this cool little aspect to your operator that nobody else has. There is only a few operators in the game that kind of have that special, I don't know that little like backstory kind of thing. I guess Echo doesn't get affected by Doki, and there's some backstory to that. But other than that, there's really everybody else is pretty well cut and paste. So that's what I've always kind of attributed to them not getting the season is that kind of Dead Man's Hand and extra Withstand ability. But I don't know. Maybe there is more to it. Maybe the 50-round mag is part of that as well. This is if it was hard to play on Chalet, it's gonna be even harder to play on Tower. I'm already lost.
I found a hatch.
Mate, you should watch my stream.
Right above.
My eyes are tripping out.
Oh man,
they've got ADS.
So I think soon we should really start fielding some thoughts from members of the community and see what they think.
We've had Ace kind of going around to our streams trying to find some questions. Ace is a longtime friend of my channel, so I appreciate the help there, Ace. Are you still with us, Ace? Can you give us a question?
Yeah, of course, man, no problem. One thing that I've seen mentioned a few times that you guys haven't covered, and some really great questions, everybody, keep them coming, is it's only a minor nerf, but what about taking away Ella's impact grenades and swapping them for a different utility?
Okay, well that is interesting. Do you think the impact grenades make her powerful then, or do you guys think impact grenades... Because they're not really anti-infantry, are they? They're more of more opening up walls and stuff like that.
I mean, they fit her really aggressive role right now. I would say the most desirable in that category... Well, I don't know. Nitrocell obviously has its perks, but the choice between impacts or barbed wire seems to be, in my opinion, the best choice. So if you switched her to Nitrocell and shield, or I guess to barbed wire and shield or something like that, it wouldn't fit her current role. I understand why she has impacts right now, but that would be a nerf. I don't think it's even remotely close to a big enough nerf, but yeah, that would definitely be a nerf.
And if we loop it back around to maybe what her role should be rather than what it is, sort of as a blocking character, then maybe barbed wire and a nitrocell would actually fit that role much better. Especially if they do go as far as changing her to a 2-speed 2-armor operator.
That's very true.
I think some people would see the addition of a nitrocell as a bit of a buff, though.
Yeah.
I think because it's seen by many to be the most sort of potent defensive gadget there is. We locked in here now.
We're completely locked in. We're playing with some expert guys. Yeah.
I know there's a window over here. No, oh, he's closing it. The turtle strat. I can't handle it. I gotta get out. So.
I'm gonna just sit here somewhere. One more mine somewhere.
Kronos says that they're going to be changing her mobility. So that's something we touched upon earlier. if we think a change to the mobility would be, you know, a big nerf to her. And I actually do think it would be a reasonable nerf to.
Absolutely.
I mean, could you imagine her as a 1-speed?
Oh my god.
Yeah, that would totally change her as an operator.
But then does she get an ACOG on that gun? Because that could bring in a whole nother set of issues. Imagine spawn peeking with that gun and an ACOG.
That's
But
very
then,
true.
rolling it back to the P90 comparison, the P90 has an ACOG.
Yeah. Well, okay, but you're the stat man, Rogue. Where is the P90 weaker? Is it damage? It's definitely fire rate, right? Is it damage as well, or just fire rate?
Fire rate is a little bit lower. It's good, but not as good. So the Scorpion has 1080 RPM, and the P90 has 970. So it's still a very, very fast gun, but it is just much weaker in terms of damage per shot. It has only 22 max damage, whereas the Scorpion goes all the way up to 28.
Yeah. I mean, like, to hear the stats is one thing. To play with both of them, I mean, it's night and day. The P90 isn't anywhere close to as good. And, like you said before, it's the P90, correct me if I'm wrong, it's only available on a 1-speed 3 armor.
Exactly.
So...
yeah, both Doc and Rook.
Yeah, I can't draw a lot of comparisons between the P90 and the. Sorry, I had to run out on Dokkaebi there. I can't draw a lot of comparisons between the P90 and the Scorpion, other than mag size. I just feel like they're not even comparable.
Mag size and the fire rate is quite similar, but yeah, it's all down to that damage, which ends up making all the difference.
I don't feel like the P90 is as good of a choice as the MP5. What is it, the MP5K?
Yeah, no, it's not the K, it's... oh,
It's just called MP5,
Is
no?
it just the MP5? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Exactly,
I feel
it is.
like if I'm choosing between those two guns, I go with the MP5 every time.
I always
personally.
do as well.
Yeah, me too.
And that's the odd thing, because you have this gun that has the same fire rate and the same magazine size, and it has an ACOG, and yet is just not considered as superior in any way.
You guys want to do another question here from Ace?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
What do you got, Ace?
A very interesting point from Steve Heist. He asks if the gadget was to be made remote detonate, similar to Smoke, as we've already discussed, how do you think that would impact in potentially teaming up with Smoke, creating a situation whereby maybe those two gadgets could be alternated, extending the length by which Smoke could hold off a push to 45 seconds, even a minute?
I love it. I love it.
That's a really good point, you know.
It is.
That's a really good point. Because you could pair them two up so well. She would almost become a little bit of an anchor, wouldn't she? Because at the moment she's the consummate sort of roamer. But if you had a situation like that, it would pay off to have her at the back with Smoke, so that between them they could deny. Because Smoke can deny 30 seconds, right?
Between 30 and 40, I want to say.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So between them, they could really, if you alternated them, they could really hold. Maybe if she kept 3 of them, you could say 50 seconds. They could stop the attackers getting into the objective. If you think, for example, Oregon when they're going down into laundry room. So, but is that a bad thing? That doesn't mean it's necessarily overpowered, because you're going to have to sacrifice other operators to be able to run that combo.
I think not only stacking them sort of consecutively, but even on top of each other. I mean, Smoke is that sort of area of effect damage that can kill you if you don't get out quickly, and the Kashmot mine slows you down. If you detonate 2 of those at the same time, you can make it almost impossible for an enemy to escape, because you're being slowed down and you're being killed by the smoke. So they could be very powerful together, but also require both operators to be there to watch the mines and to trigger them at the same time.
And you're taking 2 of the best guns on defense, the SMG-11 as well as the Scorpion, and basically putting handcuffs on them by making them remain in the objective or close to it, or just play conservatively until the end of the round. So I don't mind that aspect. It would suck to be the attacker who's pushing in, you get frozen by a Grismont mine and then lit up by a smoke grenade and you die. or a smoke beauty and then you die, that would suck. It would be hard to swallow, but at the same time, like that's pretty well coordinated teamwork there, and you know, you kind of would have to hand it to the people who pulled that off on you.
And as you said to me recently, anything that promotes teamwork has to generally be quite a good thing, quite a good addition to the game.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, if I don't mind something being really strong, as long as it requires skill and teamwork and cohesion in order to get the fullest out of it. Those are my favorite aspects of the game, the stuff that requires that. What else you got, Ace? Any other good questions there?
Yeah, and guys, feel free to leave sort of comments in all of our chats. I'll try and keep an eye open as well. That was a stupid grenade.
I cannot multitask. I cannot think and play.
It's tough. It
is really tough. It's really tough.
I didn't imagine it would be this tough, but it actually is very difficult. Especially on this map, like I still don't know it quite good enough, so I'm trying to look cool for my stream and do good, but also trying to think coherently.
Here we go. I've got one.
Okay.
Potato tacos. He says, do you think reload speed is too fast for Ela? So just before I put that over to you, I've been working through reload speeds for all the weapons in the game with Rogue 9, and I think we're planning on updating his spreadsheet. So as you guys probably know, Rogue 9 has worked through all the damage of all the weapons in the game, and he's put them on a spreadsheet that you can find over on his channel. But we're hoping to add the reload times to that. Unfortunately, though, I haven't got around to doing the defense weapons yet. In fact, I think you might be doing them, Rogue.
So yeah, today we did quite a lot of work on those. All the footage is gathered, and yeah, it's now down to sort of analyzing it and writing down all of the numbers. So we should have that by tomorrow, depending on other projects. But yeah, we'll have that very soon. And yes, I will add that. Anyone who's already seen my spreadsheet, otherwise you'll find it on Reddit. You'll find it mentioned in videos that talk about the weapon damage drop-off. And in fact, today actually I wrote a script as well for a video on damage drop-off again.
There you go.
So it will be mentioned again. So yeah, go ahead and find that, and you will have the reload speed. In fact, let me see if I can find out. Actually, no. Yes. So I don't have the exact number, but it is just about as good as any other SMG. That's what I can say for now.
So it could, if they added a second onto that, but then it's that thing that, you know, Ela doesn't need to reload often. She can easily she can get an ace with one magazine, easy, if you come up behind a load of operators. Whereas if you have maybe 30 rounds and you're spraying and praying, you are going to need to reload. So there is that to it as well. It always comes back to that magazine size with her.
Yeah, and three kills with that magazine size is extremely easy. Like 3 kills, no problem. And think about Ela versus Hibana. Hibana would have to reload her primary weapon 2.5 times before Ela would have to. Now I know that Hibana has the bearing 9 she can switch to, and you know that makes sense. But Ela has a secondary weapon as well. Granted, it's a pistol, but think about how big of a difference that is in a gunfight. I mean, you know, you spray your shots, you maybe land a few bullets here and there, but you don't get the enemy down, and you have to reload. Meanwhile, they still have 30 rounds in their mag. Like that's insane. So I agree, it does always come back to their magazine size, but I think, to his point, the person who asked about the reload time of Ela, like that should have been something that was introduced from the get-go. I feel like that would only make sense. Like, yes, it's an SMG with a very big magazine, but it has the slowest reload time of any SMG in the game. That would have made sense to me.
Because Rogue and I were talking about this the other day, and we were talking about DPS or damage per second of weapons. And the fact that really, DPS, to some extent,
It's a theoretical number.
Yeah, it's a theoretical number. Saying, I don't mean it should, but almost. Oh, I can't believe I fell to that spawn peak. Spawn peak in the conservatory.
Well.
It's Ela as well. Guys, it's Ela. For the memes.
The toxic Ela.
So yeah, what I was saying is DPS to some extent perhaps should take into account magazine size over a set period, and magazine size reload time over a set period of time. So for example, DPS is typically how fast you can fire the weapon multiplied by the damage per shot, but it doesn't take into account if you have to reload. So if it calculated that over the course of a minute and all the reloads in that time as well, maybe you'd get a truer number. But then that's a problematic calculation as well in many ways.
And sort of my perspective on increasing the reload time, like, apart from the Scorpion, I think it's relatively fair to say that the weapons are, in general, pretty balanced. There are better ones, there are worse ones, but overall, I think the only one that really stands out at the moment is the Scorpion, right? And
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I've mentioned the P90 as a gun specifically that is similar, but we've also mentioned before the machine guns, or the light machine guns, as having large magazines, and the reason why they're different, I think, is because they are all balanced out by that long reload. So that could be an additional way of balancing the gun. I've said bring it more towards the P90, but alternatively, you could also slow the reload down to bring it more in line with how the machine guns function. Maybe not quite, but certainly to a degree, sort of partially.
And that would just make sense with what they've done before. You look at Ying, who has the assault rifle with an LMG magazine. That's the way that I call it. I know it's an LMG. I don't know how you technically classify it, but basically she's got an LMG that reloads at the same speed as an assault rifle for the most part.
It's one of the quickest reloads in the game.
Right, okay. But with that said, it's got an extremely slow fire rate, and it's got a lot of recoil that's hard to manage. So there's the balance, and they just missed completely on Ela. That's what's so strange.
Okay. Have we got another question, Ace? Another thought?
Yeah, absolutely. The first couple of questions that we've had have obviously been looking elsewhere other than the gun, which seems to be the popular subject for the Nerf at the minute. So a good one coming from Lubos Kudelka. Sorry if I've pronounced that wrong. But how about instead of reducing the actual mag capacity, actually reducing the number of mags instead? So you'd have probably one that you begin with in the gun, and then maybe 2 reloads.
Wow. That's interesting to think about.
Yeah,
it would give like a risk reward. So maybe you only have 2 50-round mags at your disposal. Those it's going to be really powerful, but you can't just run around and spawn peek and go crazy with it, or else you're going to find yourself using your pistol real quick.
I think that's an interesting idea. I think it could be challenging. I mean, that would, I think, probably mostly affect lower skilled players more, whereas someone who has a lot of practice in the game, or even in the pro league, they would still have a very effective gun, and since they're able to use it very well anyway, they probably won't feel the bite of a lower overall mag count as much. Which, maybe that's something you would want, something that increases the sort of skill gap in terms of being able to use her. But I think that would maybe run the risk of not doing enough to balance her out when she's being used by a skilled player, and then just make lesser skilled players even more sort of disappointed because they can't do that, if that makes sense.
I definitely think it would have an effect on playstyle if you had, say, the one magazine you begin with and then say one more. It would definitely be a limiting factor in how you use her. You wouldn't be so liberal with the spraying and praying that, well, I certainly am when I play as her, because you've got the bullets, you may as well use them. They're not going to do you any good when you're dead. So I think it would have an effect, but I doubt it is the kind of change they would make. It would be because it's kind of a new mechanic if they went that route, right? Because that's not something they've done with, as far as I can tell, with any other operator in the game, apart from maybe Buck's special shotgun.
The SMG, remember, it used to be really limited on ammo. And I don't know that was on purpose because they ended up giving it more. But
Right.
that's definitely something that was very kind of a nerf on the SMG 11 was that limited ammo. You would run out pretty quick into the round if you weren't careful.
Got ya.
That's an interesting concept. I don't know that would be the best way to go about it because the problem would still remain. And 100 bullets, say you gave her 2 mags, 100 bullets is still a good bit. I think Habana only starts out with what 125, something like that. So I don't know. What else you got, Ace?
Got another question regarding the gadget coming from Micah Swafford. Quite an interesting one, suggesting a potential change to the way that the mines are triggered, which we've sort of already discussed with remote detonating, etc. But a possible change in that they would be triggered by sound instead of proximity. So it may then be possible to creep past them, to move past them without detonating.
Another interesting.
I like that one as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. If
that
you
would be a buff to IQ because IQ can say, "Hey, there's one there, so we need to crouch past this point."
Another buff to IQ. Views above.
Okay. They're securing now. I need to go. Hey, I'll take any buff to IQ. I still find IQ to be kind of useless and all.
Oh.
I'm sitting here just running around like a madman. I still don't think IQ is as good as she should be, in all honesty. So I would take the additional buff to IQ. That would be an interesting aspect, and I don't know honestly that works for this nerf. But I think there's a lot you could do with that mechanic in the game down the line with another operator. I really do. Like I love that concept of, hey, there's a trap here. If we are walking upright, it'll go off on us, but if we crouch walk by it or something like that, then we can get by it no problem.
Mm-hmm. What do you reckon, Rogue?
Definitely think it's an interesting concept. If they don't change the mines so that you can't use them as sort of proximity grenades anymore, although even if you do, I mean, I suppose if someone throws it at you and you just freeze or you try to move slowly, you're making yourself an easy target anyway. But it would definitely affect how they're used as unattended traps. I mean, if they're attended anyway, then sneaking makes you just an easy kill. If someone's watching, they pop out, they kill you. So I think it would only work in the sort of the circumstances when they are unattended, when someone's just tossing them out in various directions and then goes roaming or does something different.
Yeah, and
interesting idea.
Like I said, I like it. I really do. I don't know that it works that well for Ella, but I'd like to see it used as a mechanic down the road. A question that I have for you guys. How bad is Ella? Like we all agree that she needs nerfed, but is Ella right now more out of balance than Blackbeard was upon release? Is this the worst thing we've ever seen in the game, in your opinion, or has there been things that have been worse than the current state of Ella?
I personally think Blackbeard was worse. I think Blackbeard was worse. Ella can still be killed. The thing with Ella, though, right? That's more a symptom of just how Siege is. The fact that speed is so much more important than armor. And when we were talking yesterday, Rogue brought up the point about armor doesn't really give you that much more armor. I mean, really, it doesn't. Maybe one extra shot at range?
Yeah.
A big deal. I'd have the speed. You're like bloody lightning running around with Ash than running around as Fuse. That armor, for the additional size of your hitbox, the noise your operator makes, is just not worth it. Because it's like one extra bullet. And if you're firing at someone fully automatic, big deal.
Right.
So I've perhaps gone a bit off topic, but no,
that's a great point.
I think Blackbeard, because Blackbeard was nerfed twice, right? In his very, very first iteration, I think he was more problematic.
Yeah, and he was nerfed in multiple aspects. He was nerfed his movement speed, his gun, his ADS, his shield strength. I mean, there were just so many different ways of Blackbeard that were nerfed.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know if it's ever. I feel like, yeah, Blackbeard is probably the worst it's ever been. I would have to agree with you there because it was just so frustrating to outplay him and do everything right and still die to him. You know.
Oh.
Did
Yeah.
you notice that our teammates left us?
Yeah, I did. I was
Really?
saying in my chat. Can they tell we're distracted?
We trying to focus up, clutch
Yeah.
this.
What do you think, Rogue? Do you think Ella
I'm
right
the one
now
still
is...
playing.
Well, you both are. No, I think Blackbeard was probably worse in his first iteration than what Ella is at the minute, but she's up there, I suppose. She's
no,
the
and
defensive
actually-
Ash, right?
Actually, yeah, you're completely right, and I think that's something that I've just also seen in my chat as well. The agreement is she definitely deserves it. She definitely has it coming, but it's not as if she is that terrible. She is that ultimate fragger on the defender side right now, which is a shame, but she's not that terrible. I mean, she's bad, but not terrible.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'll go along with that.
All right, we're trying to clutch this out, Rogue. We got this.
Oh, I almost
Come
had
on.
him. He's behind
Is he in
there.
the corner?
He's behind there.
He's in
Yes,
the corner.
Doc behind, to the left, around behind.
Oh!
Yeah, look at that.
How I didn't
five.
headshot him, I don't even know.
If only if that would have been an Ella, I would have been screwed. But it was a Doc, so I'm good.
Well, he had the ACOG, but that wasn't helping him right then.
No, that was counterproductive in that one. I don't know. I kind of feel like we, like you said in the beginning there, Pete. We when we saw Ella initially, we thought she was going to be strong, and it kind of snowballed up until last night when you have, like you said, Fabian of Penta getting on Twitter and saying that basically he's worried and that that it'll never be changed and blah 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 to the point where the community manager Epi had to reply to him. So. I don't know. I give the developers a lot of credit. It might sound like we're hard on the developers sometimes, but I think what we said earlier that you never really know how things are going to play out until you actually see how people handle them once they get in games, and so you kind of have to give them the benefit of the doubt. And they can't, like, as much as people think that they can't just roll out patches, especially on consoles, every single day. Like, it can't just be, oh, this is OP, we're going to patch it. They do a lot of research, a lot of data goes into all the patches, all the nerfs and buffs in this game. So I think that as much as it might sound like you kind of harp on them and say, oh, Ella's OP, you do have to give the developers the benefit of the doubt as well.
Yeah, you have to be fair about the criticism you put out there. When they deserve criticism, you need to give it to them, but sometimes it isn't deserved. The thing is, obviously, there's a lot of glitching that goes on at the moment. You got the Jaeger shield glitch, and they're the things you really want fixed quickly because they just spread so quickly. Once a handful of people know, then you just have so many people doing these glitches.
And then you'll get some dude who will make a video about it.
Yeah.
Well, they're
there's
just
glass
bringing it to the
outside.
attention of the developers, you see. So they need to give a step-by-step tutorial.
No, I mean,
That's
here's the thing. The developers are very responsive. Like, in this game, like, especially coming from Call of Duty, like, good luck getting any developer to ever even acknowledge that you're a living human being. But in this game, honestly, every time that I've tried to reach out with something important, I've had no problem getting the attention of somebody on the development team. So if you find a glitch or something, bring it to the attention of the developers, sure. But you don't, I don't know, you don't have to make a video about it in order to do that.
You'll definitely get a friendly response. That's actually quite funny because the script for the next video that I wrote today, it turned into a bit of a rant, and it actually involves an interaction I've had with a Ubisoft customer support dude, which is quite funny that would come up. But no, I've definitely done it quite a few times, especially since the stuff I do find discrepancies, I do find mistakes, and they do listen and they do react to that, and I always get an answer.
Do you guys want to do one last question and without playing here, so we can actually focus
So
and
we can
give
yeah,
give our
okay,
viewers the attention they deserve?
yes.
Yeah, go on.
'Cause we're giving the game 50%, and yeah, there we go. We're out. All right.
Do you have one more good one there for us, Ace?
Yeah, I've got a good one coming from Kobe Alba. An interesting concept for the gadget again. What if the proximity mines, only actually worked when in a certain proximity to Ella herself?
Ooh, that's
Another
interesting.
playstyle one.
So basically, the idea would be that she can't just throw them in the objective, run off to the other side of the map, spawn peek, and still have that gadget have effect. Also, if she died, does that then make the gadget useless? That would be a question that I would have. I'm assuming yes.
Yeah, you'd have to assume yes. If she's not alive, she's not going to be in the proximity of the mines. Again, I like that because you've got the weapon, you've got everything you need to go and be aggressive. But if you do that, then you are basically ruling out the fact that you have this gadget, because if you go and die, if you get pinned by 2 attackers, then there's no way you're going to get back to site. It's just encouraging you to play with a different play style. It's the carrot rather than the stick, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a really good idea, really interesting idea, and I think it could work well in combination with a few other things. I think on its own, especially if she can still use those mines as essentially grenades, it would still make her that powerful fragger, that kill hunter. Because then in those situations, she will always be close enough. And in fact, I wonder even if it might backfire and encourage more of that gameplay rather than using them as traps, using them as grenades, and going hunting rather than protecting an area.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I don't think that that's a route they would go down, but I think that it would encourage the more thoughtful players to change their play style, but there would still be a lot of players that wouldn't give 2 hoots about the fact that's going to affect their gadget and would still use her as a super aggressive roamer.
Yeah, I think that might be something they would have to do in addition to like the 2 armor that you were talking about there, Rogue. I could see that being like a combo nerf, possibly. Or again, I could just see this being a great idea for some type of operator mechanic down the road with a new operator, because I do like the idea of having to choose a play style based upon how effective your gadget's going to be. I think that's an interesting dynamic to the game for sure.
I mean, we kind of have operators like that. Smoke, for example, is a little bit like that. But this is just taking it that stage further, right? Because it's your gadget is absolutely useless if you're not within a proximity of it, so that it can trigger when an attacker or a defender goes through and sets it off. So it's kind of bits. There are sort of operators like that in the game, but it takes it one step further because it's dictating a play style.
Well, what do you guys think here as far as in closing? Do you guys have anything else that you want to add to the Ella conversation?
I mean, I'm just looking through the comments on the stream, and
I had one interesting one that might be
people
worth.
are divided.
There was one question in what is the actual difference between the goo mines that Legion has and the mines, the Gushmot mines that Ella has, because they kind of fulfill a similar yet slightly different goal in terms of when they're used as traps. They both kind of, well, one more than the other, but they both affect your vision, they both slow you down a bit, they both stop you from sprinting, and they're both just triggered by proximity. I think one of the key differences, and that's something we did talk about, is that the goo mines, they do take a moment to deploy. Is it a full second? It does take quite a bit. They drop down, then they pop open, then they disappear. It's almost a second, right?
Yes.
And with the...
And they make a loud noise as well when they do.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Gushmot mines, they don't have that at the moment. They go active fairly quickly once they've been thrown. And that is one of the theories, is that might be added, a delay to turn the mines The Gishmot mine's more into actual mines rather than a combo of grenade and mine. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I suppose the other comparison is that Legion is a 2-2. His gun doesn't have that massive magazine capacity. Speed is so much more important than the armor, as we were saying, because it doesn't really, unless they're going to buff armor, make it so it can withstand a few more bullets, then it's pretty meaningless. But the fact of the matter is, he's just slower, basically.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah, and one of the most powerful aspects of Ella's mines that's often overlooked is the fact that it can stick anywhere. And that's one disadvantage that Legion doesn't have. He can't stick them above a door. Granted, they go invisible, but I almost feel like it's easier to get rid of a Legion mine that is there than an Ella mine, if that makes sense at all.
Yep. I think that makes complete sense.
Yeah, it's harder to see, but once you know where it is, it's easier to take out. If you're IQ and you identify the Legion mine, it's always going to be easier to take out than an Ella mine that's perhaps above the door that you're looking through. Because, yeah, like you say, the Legion mine is going to always be somewhere where you can shoot it because you have to walk there.
And to be completely honest, if I have over 10 health, 99 times out of 100, I would rather get hit with a Legion mine than an Ella.
Well, the effect of the Ella mine is quite a bit different. Obviously, you're pretty healthy. Unless you've got some DPI switch or something to shoot your DPI up to 1 million or something, you can barely move when you get hit by that Ella mine.
Yeah, not just being able to look around, but especially move forward, run away, peek, whatever. All of those important things.
Yeah.
Yeah, but other than that, I think that was quite good. I'm quite happy with that.
Quite an interesting discussion.
Awesome. It was difficult. I did get the most interesting question I see in my comments is somebody requested for Pete to say adios amigos. So before the stream's over here, Pete, that's a request from my guys. One thing I would like to do is deafen myself before I personally end my stream. I don't know because I just have some things I want to say to my viewers. But if you guys are good, then we can go ahead and wrap this up here and then do that.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. Just before you deafen us, I just want to say thanks to all the guys over on both of your streams leaving questions, and a massive thanks as well to Ace, who's been sitting around politely making notes of questions from you guys in the comment section. So thanks very much to Ace and to everyone watching.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for being so active with suggestions and ideas and questions. Great stuff. I've really enjoyed this.
Yeah, I'm really happy with the turnout and all the questions I've seen in the comments. I wish I could have gotten to more, but at the same time, this is something that I'd be interested in doing down the road. Maybe playing and talking at the same time is an acquired skill that we'll have to practice, guys. But I'd be interested in doing this sometime down the road for sure.
Yeah, we could do this more regularly. I mean, we're all in sort of quite a few of us Siege creators now are all in contact in a sort of Twitter DM group. So I think we're going to be doing a few more of these things. I've got a podcast coming out later this week with Flanked and Rogue on my channel, and I think Flanked's going to have one on his channel soon. So we're going to be rotating it around and doing a lot more collaboration, I think.
Sounds good to me.
Cool. All right. Speak to you soon.
Excellent. Bye.
All right. Yeah. Hey, I need that adios amigos.
Do it. All right. Until next time. Adios, amigos.
Thanks, Pete. All right. I'll be back dude. I'm gonna deafen myself, and then I'll be back here.
Same for me. Right, guys. Excellent. Well, thanks a lot again from me for joining in. And yes, that Colin asking the question, I will be putting this video live, so you will be able to rewatch it from the beginning. Basically as soon as we finish here. So yeah, from me, thanks a lot everyone for watching. Special thanks to JT Hancock. What a generous donation. Thank you so much. You're too kind. And with that, I guess, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm actually really looking forward to doing this again. It's been great fun. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye, guys.